Hi, I'm Jay Alpinist. I'm going to show you how to set up AudioGridder with Acustica Plugins to use distributed computing to allow you to run more instances of Acustica Plugins across all of your input channels. So what I have here is I have a server, just a spare Mac that I have. It's an i7. And then I have my primary machine, which is an M1 Mac Mini. Both have 16 gigs of RAM, but this guy is 6 or 7 years old, so it's not a spring chicken. I'm going to go to AudioGridder.com and I'm going to grab the software here. You can run it on Mac, PC, or Linux. On this instance, we're running Mac, but these instructions would work just as well on PC. And you're going to run the server and the plugin. You're going to download both of those pieces of software. You're going to install the server on your server, and you're going to install the plugin version just like a VST or AU plugin on your host machine. Once you've installed that, let me just close this instance here. I'm going to show you the network settings. So what I've done is I've created just an ad hoc network between the two machines, meaning that there's not even a switch or a router between these two machines. These two machines are directly connected with an Ethernet cable. And what I've done is I've made the server, the ad hoc server here, by giving it an address of 192.168.111.1. And the IP address reflects that router, 192.168.111.1. The subnet mask, I mean, if you're setting it up this way, you can copy my settings here, 255.255.0.0. If I take a look at my network settings here, and I go to my network here, go to Ethernet, you're going to see that the router is pointed to my ad hoc server, 192.168.111.1, and my IP address is going to 192.168.111.3. This address, again, if you're copying my settings, you can just copy this, but this last octet could be whatever you want, 25, 55, 75, 101, 110, whatever. But the first three portions of the octet need to stay the same so that they're in the same subnet as this router. The other thing that I've done is I've set the service order on both my server and on my computer so that the Wi-Fi takes precedence here, that's so that they can both be on the internet, and I can download these packages. I can use the internet as normal, but AudioGridder runs in the background just on this Ethernet channel. So once you have that set up, you've installed your plugins, your Acustica plugins or Plugin Alliance plugins, whatever vendor that you want to use. You've installed them on your server as normal. You're going to scan them with the AudioGridder, and then I always like to open the statistics here while I'm running AudioGridder. I also have a remote connection to the server, so I can take a look and see how the server is doing at any given time to see if there's any problems. I usually have this on my second screen, but I'm going to leave this here for the time being just to show you kind of some tips and tricks on how to save some CPU load while you're using this. So I'll just hide this for the time being, and let's show you how that's set up. So you install the plugin on your host machine. I'm going to launch the plugin, and from here it's going to show you that it's connected to that router address, 192.168.111.1. And here is the buffer size. You can adjust this buffer size here in the settings, but 85 milliseconds is fine when I'm mixing. It's not a problem. The other thing too is that I have my my preferences here, my audio preferences, set to 2048 as per Acustica's recommendation. When you're mixing, again, because of that impulse response kind of technology, giving the DAW a little bit more time to grab those impulse responses and play them is only to your benefit. So you can increase the buffer here, but I tend to find this 85 milliseconds is just fine. So I'm going to launch this plugin. You're going to see that it runs on the server on the background, and that's going to reflect here on my DAW window. Any changes that I'm making, you're going to see reflected on the server. So you can see really the server is running the instance of this plugin. A couple tips and tricks that I use is that if I'm going to run this song here right now, When I'm running with the GUI open, you're going to see the CPU load is quite high, and that's a tendency of all these Acustica plugins. But if I close this window, you're going to see my CPU usage drop dramatically. So if I'm making adjustments to any of these plugins, I get in and get out of the GUI. So I make my changes, I close the GUI, and then I go on to my next plugin, make my changes. I don't leave a bunch of GUIs open. I mean, that's a good course of action when you're in the DAW anyways, but it really, you can see it makes a big difference here. I'm going between, I'm losing, or I'm saving 20% by using that method. The other thing too is that in AudioGridder, personally, I've had more success opening separate AudioGridder windows. So I could add other instances of Acustica plugins here, but for me the best way to do it is to stop the song that I'm working on, throw an AudioGridder instance in here, choose the instance that I want to use, in this instance Cream. I can launch that instance. I'm gonna choose the band that I want to work on. So in Acustica, if you're not aware, you have to actually turn on the band that you want to use. So if I want to use, say, the tube preamp or line input, I have to choose that before it's actually active. I make those changes, then I launch the song that I'm working on, and from here I can make adjustments just like I normally would, and the plugin is just going to react quite a bit smoother there. You can only run one GUI instance on the server at a time. So say I leave this open and I go back over here to Indigo. If I open Indigo, you're going to see that the server drops this. So you can see that I have a GUI back here, but it's not actually, this is kind of like a ghost GUI now because it's not available. So you can only have one instance of that GUI available to make changes on. They're going to run in the background when they're closed, but you can only really edit one of them at any given time. So again, I would recommend closing the instances when you're not using them. Pre-dialing in stuff if you can do that beforehand, turning on bands beforehand, and stopping the song when you're making any offloading or loading on any plugins, and you're going to find a lot more stability that way with the AudioGridder platform. You can throw plugins on, you can do stuff on the fly, but just from a consistency standpoint, when I'm working all day with these plugins, those little tips and tricks have saved not me from having to restart a session or restart AudioGridder or any of those things. If AudioGridder does crash while you're working on it, the best thing really to do is to stop the session. I typically would actually close out of my Ableton or Logic or what have you session, and from here I would either restart or quit and restart the AudioGridder program. Once that's done fully loading, I would then restart the DAW and then reload the track and then check and make sure that the AudioGridder plugins are working. This is a rare thing that occurs, but that's the way to deal with it if it does occur. So I hope these tips and tricks have helped you. I hope that AudioGridder runs well for you. Again, you can use as many nodes to my knowledge as you'd like. And you could choose those inside of AudioGridder. So it's a really great platform. If you have existing machines that you want to add into your studio setup, why not? The platform is free, it doesn't take very long to set up, and it's going to allow you to run more Acustica plugins, so all the better. If you have any questions, put them down below. I'd be glad to answer them. We'll see you again. Like and subscribe. Thanks.